Hello my friends, Dean here with Escape to Gaming. Today I'm excited to revisit an old video I did back in the early part of 2013. I talked about my most immersive memories of all the games that I've played, especially from like the PS1 days forward. Unfortunately, it was the first time I filmed a video in my truck. I had the camera on the other side of my truck filming, and you couldn't hear my voice very well over the sound of my Hemi engine. So since then, now when I drive my truck, I film a little bit closer to my face where you can at least hear over the sound of the exhaust. But anyway, I wanted to redo the video because I thought of it, and it's a great concept. Kit171 and I have recently been talking about, our most immersive memories of games, and he just did a wonderful video, which I'll have in the link below, talking about games that really sucked you in. They got you involved with immersion. And this is kind of it's almost the staple of my show. I mean, that's what my show is all about, is escapism and about how deep the immersion is with these games and how wonderful it can be. There's nothing like it. Multiplayer is wonderful. I love racing games. I love split screen with my family and friends. But there's something about late at night and in-depth, long single-player game that you can get lost in, with a great story and wonderful action. Those are the kind of memories that, to me, make gaming wonderful and keep me, frankly, interested in it for the future. And there's many of them. I mean, there's probably dozens and dozens of these games, but I whittled it down to 15 games, and it was tough. In my other video, I think I had about 15 to 20 games as well. Some of them are the same, and there's a few that are different. I'll have the link for that video down below as well. Although it's kind of hard to hear, and there are times where I'm driving with the ADD, I get distracted and I lose my train of thought, and it kind of shows in that video. But it was a good concept, and I wanted to give it a fair chance with a new video and kind of go over some of these games, including some other ones that weren't in my original list. So I'll start off with the PS1. Now, there were many wonderful games, especially like Silent Service on the original Commodore 64 and many others. Stealth Fighter, F-17 Stealth Fighter, other ones that I loved back in the C64 days, and even games like Super Star Wars and the Super NES were wonderful. I loved those games, and they were very immersive, and I pulled all-nighters playing them. But I wanted to get mostly into the PlayStation 1 and up days, because these are games that I actually have in my collection, and games that I can replay now. So just thinking about them gets me excited to put them back in and try them again. But I'm going to have a little bit from each era. I'll start off with the PS1. Really, the only PS1 game, there are actually two. One was the game Myst, which I don't have here. I have it downloaded in my PlayStation 3 off the PlayStation Network, and I also have it off from Steam, but I don't have it on my PS1 yet. But that was a great game. That's really not one of them, since I don't have it. But the other game I really was incredibly immersed with on the PlayStation 1, and many of you already know this, is Duke Nukem Time to Kill. This is just a great game. A lot of people think of Duke Nukem 3D when they think of a Duke Nukem game, and it certainly is an immersive one as well, and I love it. I have many versions of that game downloaded from the PlayStation 3. There's a new Ultimate Edition, which is really cool. I forget what it's called, but it's a great version of it in HD. And I have another one off the Xbox 360 downloaded, along with Manhattan Project and other ones. But there was something about Let Them Eat Lead and the time travel elements on Duke Nukem Time to Kill. This had some of the most wonderful platforming, cool techno music through the levels. You really felt immersed. Underground, hidden areas and caverns and jetpacks, and there was just so many wonderful secret areas that were, to this day, I have not even found. I found like all but 3 secret areas in this game. This game is tough. Mark Bussler of Classic Game Room was going to review the actual game that I donated to him, and he said he got like more than halfway through it and used up to 3 lives and apologized multiple times. Dean, I feel terrible, but I've started capturing footage. I don't want to replay the game all over again. I go, I know, it has 3 lives. You probably used them up. He goes, yeah, I did. So it's tricky. You have to really plan ahead. These games were tougher than a cheap steak, but wonderful games. But Duke Nukem Time to Kill was one of the first, for the PS1 era, super immersive games, and I've played it so many times, and the split screen. It's a fantastic game. I can't recommend this game enough. I also like Land of the Babes, which I need to get for my collection as well, but this was one of the first ones in the mid-90s that really catapulted me deep into a world of immersion, and that was this wonderful Duke Nukem Time to Kill. Now next, there were other games to the PS1, but jumping right up to the PlayStation 2, I started off buying Twisted Metal Black for that system, and even though that was very immersive, it just didn't have the story elements. But what really got me interested was Grand Theft Auto 3, and even more importantly, I think, is Vice City. GTA 3 was a magical game, and I played the hell out of it, and played it twice, the campaign all the way through, all the side content. But Vice City, for me, was a special game. I love Miami Vice. I love the 80s. I was alive and kicking as a young adult in the 80s. So, to me, this has a really special, kind of a heightened reality of living in the 80s by playing this game. The music, I even have all of the CDs here. You can see all of them for all the radio stations on Vice City that I bought in a box set afterwards. I love this game. It was so much fun. So immersive, wonderful voice acting and missions and levels in the daytime, at night. It still to this day is one of my most memorable and immersive games. I was just in absolute heaven playing GTA 3 and especially Vice City. And San Andreas was another one that was very immersive, but this one I think was the pinnacle for me. It really was. Not long after, because I loved Rockstar and Vice City so much, I took a chance. I had no idea what this was, but I bought Manhunt and tried it, and my God, what a wonderful game this Manhunt is. And this is another one I donated to Classic Game Room. I think CGR Undertow reviewed this. It wasn't a very good review, unfortunately. There's a lot of moralizing about what kind of a person would play a game like this, and really not too much on the game itself. But this is a great game. I love this game to death, and the follow-up, the sequel to it as well. It was just a very dark and immersive. I stayed up till like 7:30 in the morning playing this game all night. I called a friend of mine the first couple levels in who lived like an hour and a half away. I was living up in the high desert at the time, and my friend Chris, I said, Chris, you would love this game. You've got to get your ass up here and play this. And he raced up, and within a few hours, he got off from work, he came up and he spent the whole night. We took turns playing this all night long and all the next day. Took me like 2 days to finally finish it. It's a long game, and it's tough as hell. The controls are a little awkward when you jump back into this. The controls are a little bit more user-friendly for Manhunt 2, but this game, for dark immersion, a very kind of an unusual survival horror. And it was very fear-based. I mean, I almost had a psychotic episode playing this. It was just so intense. And it's still, to this day, the music, the dark setting, the characters, Brian Cox that plays the wonderful director in this, and you hear his voice. I even have the original set of SOCOM PlayStation 2 headphones that you could use and enable with this game, and you could lure the guys out, so you could do kills on them via the headphone set, which was wonderful. I can't recommend this game. This game was so dark and so immersive on so many levels. Now, even though this game came out a little bit earlier, before the Vice City and Manhunt, it was not long after Manhunt that I finally bought a used copy of this wonderful Wolfenstein Return to Castle Operation Resurrection. This, to me, is my favorite port. It actually is more detail in the environments. There's more in this game. This is the best port of the game by far. More levels, even more color and cutscenes. They really tweaked it because there wasn't multiplayer. They put much more into the single-player element of it. And the RPG elements and ways you can level up in this that you can't even in the Xbox version makes this a very unique and special game, in my opinion. I love Wolfenstein Return to Castle. I've played the PC version. I recently played the Xbox Tides of War version all the way through. I can't recommend this enough. There's something about the music, the setting, the World War II setting, going in against all odds and working your way through a linear game, but a real adventure that you really felt involved with, and eventually it ramps up, and if you give the game a chance, you get better and better weapons. There's supernatural things going on in the game. There's so much to it, and underground zombie levels and Indiana Jones type puzzles. This game was highly immersive, and I have many friends of mine will agree that this is one of the most wonderful and immersive games that a person could play. I love this game to death. And this Wolfenstein franchise, as many of you know, is probably my favorite franchise because of this game. Not long after that, I finally broke down and got an Xbox, and I bought the original Xbox for one reason only, and that was just to play this game. I had a PC at the time, but it really couldn't play PC games. It was kind of a weak PC. So to me, it said only on PC and Xbox. I went to see Land of the Dead from George Romero at the theater, and they actually had a commercial during the movie for this video game, and I go, my God, I've got to get this an Xbox just to play this. The day this game came out, I bought my first original Xbox, and man, I'm glad I did. I loved the PS2 and thought nothing could do better than that graphic-wise, but the graphics and the multi-platform games that were available on the PS2 and the original Xbox, I think look a little bit better by and large on the original Xbox, and that's why to this day, the original Xbox is my favorite. Some would call it retro, some might not, but it's a favorite older console to collect for. I love the Xbox. And this game is incredible. I really got immersed. I actually had to stop playing it after the first couple days because I got in, my imagination is so crazy and so realistic and wild that it terrified me, and I had to stop. My wife said, you got to stop playing that game. It's getting you. I was having nightmares. I'd wake up and felt like I was on the verge of a psychotic episode. But even to this day, there's something about this game, the setting of it, the electronic music, the mood of it, the fact that it's a real licensed George Romero game is fantastic. And as you increase the difficulty levels, the zombies come at you more aggressively and even faster, which is a very unusual dynamic to have for a difficulty mode in a game. So I can't recommend this enough. This game really gets me, in fact, my nephew was here about a year ago, and right after I bought this, we played this all night. We played most of it. I didn't quite finish it all the way through, but I watched him play it and had a real blast, and it brought back all the memories of just how immersive and wonderful Land of the Dead and Road to Fiddler's Green is. I don't give a shit what the Metacritic or anyone says about it. To me, it's a great game. The next game that I had not long after was From Russia with Love 007. This is one I've mentioned in other videos. I love this game absolutely to death. I've had this on the PlayStation 2, but I prefer the graphics look a little bit nicer on the original Xbox. But having the likeness of Sean Connery and Robert Shaw and the Bond women and villains in this game makes it very unique. The music really got me deep within immersion within this game. I just felt so as part of the story, and as it deviates a little bit from the film, but it has a lot of those set piece moments, and it overall does a wonderful job of immersing you, as linear as the game is, in these wonderful environments. And the multiplayer is off the hook too. They have these wonderful jetpacks that you can fly in some of the single player missions and levels. There's wonderful Bond gadgets like a little remote control helicopter you can go through AC vents and surprise people with and then blow it up, detonate it. Really cool stuff in this game. This game, because of the music, the setting, the lighting, and all of the wonderful voice acting work, puts this over the top for Bond games for me. This goes down in memory as one of the most wonderful immersive games I've ever played. From Russia with Love 007. Now, another one that I had, even though I mentioned that the first Myst game, which I love, and I just played this again on the original Xbox, but the first time I played it on the PlayStation 2, and that's Myst 3 Exile. This game, and I just played it all the way through, without cheating, without looking at anything on the internet on it. This game is tough. There's a couple levels where I just really was stumped and spent hours and hours trying to figure out the simplest of puzzles. But it's a wonderful puzzle, point-and-click adventure game. There's some slight animated scenery and wonderful ambient sounds. It really gets you deep into immersion. Brad Dourif plays a wonderful character in this. This is a great game. It's one that you need like a little notepad and a pencil to take notes of the puzzles and what have you as you return to areas, and you're going to need to take notes for this. Some people wouldn't have the patience for a game like this, but this game just sucked me into immersion. I recently also played Myst 4 Revelations on the original Xbox as well, and got stuck on one level. It's a timing thing, and you have to do it within a certain time frame, and I just can't seem to do it. I can't beat it. I'm so close. I'm near the end of the game too, and I just can't beat it. But wonderful games. If you like point-and-click adventure games with a wonderful story and a setting that's very surreal, you can't beat the immersion you can get with these Myst games. Now, I don't have my original Xbox version, but I did buy, and I'll show you here, I have the new Xbox 360 version of Godfather the game. Now, I had played this on the original Xbox. This is one of the finest open world adventures that I've ever played on the original Xbox. In fact, the last game I played on my original Xbox, I think was, I played Driver, Parallel Lines, and Godfather, the game. This is one of the last games that I had a hard time getting rid of from my original Xbox. I love this game so much. The character creation from the very beginning, all the authentic, wonderful music from Paramount Studios, the likenesses of all the characters in the game, the wonderful New York City and the time period with the old cars and the nightclubs and the Don's house. In all of these areas you could take, and these open world missions, you could take over particular areas and gangs and regions within the maps, rob banks, do whatever you want, have cars, safe houses, prostitutes, the whole deal. It's a crazy game. I love the production values, the little menus and sound effects, and a lot of the fine details in this game. I am dying to play this Xbox 360 version, which had better lighting effects, much better fire effects in it, with Molotov cocktails and explosions and things like that. Dying to play this. I would highly recommend the Godfather game. Whether you have an original Xbox, it might be on the PS2, I'm not sure, I think it is, and especially the Xbox 360 version. It's also on the PlayStation 3, I believe, as well. Now, not long after that, I got my Xbox 360 the day that this game came out, and that's Wolfenstein Return to Castle. Now, this was a magical game. Just like Land of the Dead was the reason why I bought my original Xbox. Wolfenstein from 2009 by Raven Software was one of this, or actually this was by, yeah, it was Raven and id Software. This was the main reason why, an impetus why I bought my Xbox 360. It took me years to wait until after launch because I couldn't afford to buy one at the time, but when I did, I also went out and bought my 46-inch Samsung high-def TV the same week this came out, and man, a combination of having the new TV going from analog to a big LCD TV, this game with the incredible graphics and the Xbox 360, this game is a magical game, one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. I think that much of it. I love this game to death. It has wonderful, good balancing between supernatural powers and more conventional World War II guns and setting. Wonderful level design, wonderful side missions, a somewhat of a semi-open world, kind of a semi-hub, where you come out of the hub and then you can go branch off to different parts of the city and do the missions and the orders that you'd like to do them. But this game, the music in it, the boss battles, the difficulty, just the dark mood and setting, especially when you infiltrate the castle, and finally the Zeppelin up in the sky far above the city. It's a magical experience that kept me up night after night. I love this game very much and would highly recommend for a deep immersive experience, Wolfenstein from 2009. Now, another game, my first experience with a PlayStation 3, I went down to work at my father-in-law's house for about a week and a half. I went down to do some wallpaper removal and to paint the bulk of this big house. So I knew I was going to be down there every day working hard, and he had just bought a brand new PS3. I'd never seen one before. It was a couple of years after launch, so it had been out a while, and he had the only game he had at the time was this wonderful Uncharted game. I think he had Tomb Raider Underworld as well, which I also love quite a bit, and I just got recently. But when I first played, he had a 52-inch Samsung, which was much bigger than mine, and I just could not believe the graphics in the immersion. And because we got snowed out at the time, and this big snowstorm came in, and I had to stay like an extra week, I got to play this whole game all the way through. He had a profile set up where he was working through the game, and then I set up a profile as well. And I would stay up many a night, eating ice cream and drinking soda at the time. I can remember drinking my Diet Coke all night, and I'd pull all-nighters playing this Uncharted game. I had such a wonderful, magical experience, one of the finest immersive memories. Now, I've only played about half of Uncharted 2, and I never have even played the third one, which I have both of them, Uncharted 2 and 3, which I'm anxious to play. And if they come out with a special HD version of this for the PlayStation 4, I would definitely, in a heartbeat, buy it just for the better graphics. This game's tough. Waves and waves of enemies, but if you want to talk just a deep immersion with level design, wonderful lush settings, you really feel like an Indiana Jones adventure, you cannot beat this Uncharted game. It's just a wonderful, wonderful game on many, many levels. It's just fantastic. Shortly after that, I got Mafia 2. That was another one that I've recently started playing this. About last year I started playing this again, and I stopped. I got sidetracked, but I was going through the whole game all over again. I've got hours and hours back into it on a second playthrough. I need to get back to my save file and get back to this. But just this morning they showed wonderful footage, finally a trailer for the new Mafia 3, which looks fantastic. It takes place in like 1969 back in Louisiana, down in I think New Orleans. It's a wonderful setting, kind of a Vietnam era mafia story, and I believe that the main character in this is in that game. There will be some tie-ins, which I'm fascinated, but just something about the wonderful settings. This has got some of the most beautiful, gorgeous cutscenes I've ever seen, an exciting story, the wonderful characters, and then even the Joe's missions and all of the other side content missions are very well produced and well worth your time. I finally bought this like Ultimate Edition that has all the DLC and everything in it. I can't tell you how much I love Mafia 2. It's an open world game, somewhat linear as far as the progression of the story and the missions, but you can, buy and choose your cars and paint them, change your license plate, go in and buy clothes, safe houses, the whole deal. It's a wonderful game that I cannot recommend enough. It culminates to a wonderful ending at the end. A dark adult type game, whether you play it on the PC or console, but I cannot recommend Mafia 2 enough. You'll absolutely love this game for an immersive experience. Speaking of another period piece, L.A. Noire. Now, I bought this game when it first came out, got the season pass for it, and then sat on it a year before I finally played it in 2012. And I think I was homesick when I played this, and I took a week off, and my God, what an incredible experience. This is one of the top, most memorable single-player games that I've ever been through. I just absolutely loved my time in the late 40s Los Angeles, going through and finding every collectible, all the film reels, all the old, Hollywood and LA locations, even going through and finding one of every single card, collecting all the cards. I have a very high achievement score in this game. Some of the missions I didn't do so well at. I had to redo a few times, but it's one of those games you don't even mind. You don't mind failing the missions because you can always go back and redo them. It was fun going after the achievements. It really was a great game. Kind of like a Grand Theft Auto 4, where you can get out of the car and run around and interact with things. But just doing the wonderful detective stories and questioning and trying to read the wonderful motion capture faces and try to see if people are lying to you or not. It's a fascinating game. I would give anything if Rockstar would return to this and do a follow-up. A fantastic game. I can't recommend enough. Sadly, this Team Bundy or whatever, the Bondi that did this, they had lots of problems. They were putting in 80, 90-hour work weeks. People were just burned out and tired. Many of them didn't get paid, from what I understand. So there were many problems with the studio after this game came out. But this still was one of the reasons why I love console gaming and why I love consoles, that I can play games offline anytime I want, because I want to be able to return to these adventures that meant so much to me at the time, and L.A. Noire is definitely one of them. Getting up into some of the more current games, I can't rave enough about this Tomb Raider game. I love Tomb Raider Underworld and some of the PS1, Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 as well. But there's something finally, Crystal Dynamics, with this game, and I played the original, the Xbox 360 version of this initially. I've only played the first level of this PS4 one, but even on the Xbox 360, even at 30 frames a second, this plays at 60 frames a second and at 1080p graphics, which this to me is worth getting a PlayStation 4 for, just to see the graphics and the gameplay in this game. It's outstanding. But even on the slower paced Xbox 360, it looks and plays amazing. I had such a wonderful, immersive experience playing this game. Just a wonderful island that you can go off and explore, go to various visit various campsites, and then you can travel anywhere in the island and replay your favorite missions. Just fantastic weapons, a wonderful cover system in this. She just goes right into cover. Wonderful platforming, a lot of verticality, great cutscenes. Has some quick time events as well, which I really don't mind. It was done right in this game. This game really perfected, action games and shooting games, I think, very, very well. Wonderful melee, wonderful weapons, fire effects, everything. I can't recommend Tomb Raider enough. A great game. Speaking of which, Grand Theft Auto 5, which now I also have it for the, got it right here, I think for the, here it is, for the PlayStation 4 as well. And I barely played that version. This one I have over 100 hours just in the Xbox 360 version of this. It's my old steel case from getting it on the midnight launch when it came out. This game was very immersive, and frankly, believe it or not, this game even tops my memories of Vice City. For a very immersive experience, a wonderful story, 3 characters that you can kind of work between. At first I didn't think I would like it, but I really like what Rockstar did. The game is wonderfully designed, wonderfully balanced, tons of hidden collectibles, which I found all of them in the sub, all the hidden packages or locations with the helicopters and remote locations. I had so much fun and immersion playing this game. This is one-stop shopping. I would get a PS4 just to play this, and to see the graphics and gameplay are fantastic. This is a must-play game, whether you play it on the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, or one of the next-gen or newer consoles. You cannot beat Grand Theft Auto 5. I've done several videos as to why I think this was Game of the Year, and they're worth revisiting. They're fun videos. I even did some fun gameplay videos at night with a beer playing this because I had so much fun. And just kind of flying around and talking about the game. It's so cool. And then finally, as everyone knows, the wonderful Wolfenstein game, The New Order. And especially with this wonderful Old Blood DLC, which I still need to finish. I still haven't finished it yet for some reason. But this game is an incredible story, over 20 hours of gameplay, really deep immersion. Reminds me very much of Return to Castle Wolfenstein. You cannot beat the in-depth story, the graphics, the visceral action that you get in a shooter like Wolfenstein The New Order. Just an amazing game. I take my hat off to Machine Games for doing and creating an outstanding game. I hope to see much more of this in the future. I don't see why they wouldn't make a follow-up sequel to this. They've done an outstanding job with The New Order and The Old Blood. I can't rave enough about the wonderful characters and just an adult, deep story and setting in this game. It's fairly linear, yes, but still a wonderful. Sometimes linear games kind of take you through a story, and I don't mind that. This game does a very good job of that. And lastly, what kind of prompted this whole thing is my friend Mikey from Mad Max Online. I'll have a link to his channel down below. He does wonderful gameplay videos. He had done some gameplay videos over a year ago of a game called Star Wars Jedi Outcast for the original Xbox. I think he had played the PC version at the time to show the footage, which is almost identical. This game I've been playing the last few days, and this game is the most immersive game I've played in some time, probably since Wolfenstein and Grand Theft Auto 5. It's that good. And it kind of prompted me to do this whole spiel. I cannot tell you how wonderful and immersive this Star Wars Jedi Outcast is. I'm anxious to get Jedi Academy next, but this is incredible Star Wars music, fairly linear, but it reminds me kind of the old, Raven's Return to Castle. I don't know if that was an id Software, but you had the old Return to Castle game, Wolfenstein, because it has that same kind of level design. It reminds me of other Raven Software games that I like so much, like some of the early Soldier of Fortune games as well. Just wonderful, authentic Star Wars kind of a vibe and feeling with the interiors and the control panels and the way the stormtroopers come at you. The wonderful John Williams music. I'm at the part where I have a blaster right now. I'm a couple levels into this game, but I can't put this down. It's games like this that remind me why I love gaming so much. That remind me why I love console gaming and retro collecting. That I can go back and play these old experiences anytime I like is very exciting to me. And it just keeps the gaming alive. You can always go back and think of a game. You know what, I haven't played, this old Duke Nukem Time to Kill or Star Wars Jedi Outcast. You can plug it into one of your old consoles and play it offline any damn time you want, as long as you have an outlet to plug your console into. That's what's exciting about gaming collecting to me. So that's my little spiel on it. Let me know down below what are at least the top 5 most immersive games that you've ever played. List them down below. Let me know the ones that just suck you in for all-nighters, that just put you over the top, where your endorphin levels were just going off the chart and you really felt like you were in that universe. Ironically, I just got yesterday, I finally ordered and got another mint copy of the wonderful Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which I heard is very, very immersive and a wonderful experience as well, which I'm anxious to play, but I want to finish Jedi Outcast first. So if you have any recommendations of games that, Dean, you want something really immersive, play this or that. I know there's many others. The wonderful Fallout games, I'm quite sure. Half-Life 2 I've also heard is fantastic. But if you know of any others, list them down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about that as well. So I hope you enjoyed this little spiel on immersive memories. To me, that's what makes gaming so exciting, is that you can enjoy a game and it's an interactive experience, kind of like a movie that puts you in that universe. It puts you in the place, as that character within the game, and you feel really submersed deep into the game. That, to me, is what gaming's all about. Thank you very much for watching, and enjoy your games, whatever they are.